I guess they were doing some evacuation drills at the school.
I can't unmute well. Good morning. Stacy, can you hear me over there? See if you can turn your speakers up, make sure you can hear me. I can't see my screen. So. There we go. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining the conference call. Sorry, I'm a little bit late, just trying to get things set up. If you're on the call, that means you're probably either interested in coming to Thursday's 911 Day at the Capitol, or you will be attending. One thing I think is very helpful is to understand what to expect and be able to put yourself in a position of success and not just kind of walk around and go, what am I supposed to be doing? So this is something we've done in the past. We used to do it every year. Over the last few years, we haven't. And it's something we obviously want to start doing more of. The first question that came up early on was, why aren't we doing this during National Telecommunicator Week, promoting our profession? And the answer to that is it's too late in the game. If you're running legislation and things like that, and you have it in April, it's going to be you're past all the deadlines. And we'll talk a little bit about deadlines, not necessarily dates, but what the process is. And if you miss any of the different steps within the process of running a bill, then then your bill dies. And when it's dead, it's dead. It doesn't move forward. So if you miss a deadline, you're out until next year. So it's very, everything's very timely. And that's why it's important to move this date up into February so we can meet that first deadline and get in front of our legislators to help explain what's going on and what's important to us. So first off, this Thursday, February 23rd, we'll start at 9 a.m. If you have a table, then we would appreciate you being there a little bit early. I think our team's planning on be there between 8 and 8:30. And then you get your table set up and then plan on being there from 9 to 3. As far as, and I'll show you where the location is in just a second, but, there is a restaurant in the basement. We'll be on the second floor, but the restaurant will be in the basement. So there is something there to eat. You can go off site if you want. If you're out of town, you want to go off site, just remember, if you go off site, you can plan for an hour to hour and a half minimum, plus coming back and fighting for parking places and all that. So either pack a lunch, or it's probably best to use your time to eat at the cafe in the basement.
Lance,
yes.
I'm sorry, this is Christy at Edmond. I think there were some people that are in a different meeting that are trying to get logged in. If you want to hold on just another minute.
Okay, yeah, we can
just checked with Ben in the other room, and he's on a different meeting, and a couple of other people are in there, and there's nobody else there.
Okay, we're recording it, so we can certainly get the recording out also.
Okay.
I'll give it, I'll kind of ad lib a little bit before we get going, I guess, but tell them to hurry.
It's like he's logging in now.
Okay.
Hey, Lance?
Yes.
Karen, Shelly, Ben, Chrissy, and Gwen are all just now getting on here because we were over in the Teams meeting you had sent out.
Oh, okay. All right. My bad. So we'll give it just a few minutes. Can you check Teams, make sure nobody else is over there?
Yeah, Karen's in there.
I sent
Okay.
the WebEx to everybody that was in the Teams meeting.
Okay. Sorry about that. Our calendars automatically create a Teams meeting unless you actually physically turn it off. And so that causes us a problem sometimes. All right. Who else are we missing? Can you check and see if Gwen, are you on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Karen, are you on? Okay. See Chrissy on. Okay.
Pens are on.
All right, looks like we got most of the groups. We'll go ahead and continue. So again, 911 day at the Capitol, February 23rd, 9 to 3. Be there about 8:30 if you have a table. If you plan on eating off-site, plan for an hour and a half plus fighting for a parking place. There is a restaurant in the basement, or bring a sack lunch or something like that. So that's kind of get everybody else caught up to where we're at right now. So what to expect? So we'll be on the second floor rotundra, and that is there. There's not a lot of activity there. The governor's office is on the second floor. You've got some House members that are on the second floor, some Senate members on the second floor, as far as their offices go. But really, where the rubber meets the road is really on floors 4 and 5. So we are going to be well below that. However, if you've been to the Capitol, all those floors are you can look down through the rotundra and see all of that, all the way down to the second floor. So, we used to be on the third or fourth floor, and they do not allow these events to be on those floors anymore. So we'll be on the second floor. You see a diagram there. There is some words and names on there of table assignments. Don't come in and fight over based upon what I'm showing, because you'll get your table assignment when you get there. This is the first draft of that. We're going to probably keep these. My recommendation to our group is to keep these tables open, because we want to use these tables maybe with some printouts, some large printouts to attract attention from upstairs, downstairs, to get those legislators' attention to come down and see us. However, don't expect them to come down and see you, because you're going to be doing a lot of walking and talking. So, it is best to dress for success. You can wear a uniform. If you have a uniform, that's fine. But certainly dress for success. You'll see everyone in suits and ties in that building, or at least suits. You won't probably see me in a tie, because I just don't do that. I have too fat of a neck, I guess. But suits and ties. Plan on walking, so wear your walking shoes, and be ready to talk. So promoting your profession. That's what we're really there for at the core, is to promote our profession. What do we do? Why are we important? Why, and my best definition of that is, we connect citizens to responders. We are that vital link between the citizens and responders. We do a lot of other stuff, but you have to remember who your audience is, and these legislators represent the people. They don't represent law enforcement, fire, EMS, or 911. They represent the people and what's best for the people. So what's your connection to the people is very important. We're the vital link to responders in the field, and we help them, and that's all important, and that's good. A lot of these legislators are volunteer firemen, and they understand that. But you have to understand that, we are there for the citizens, and at our core mission, when someone has their worst day, we're there to help them during that crisis by providing pre-arrival instructions and things like that. So promote your profession is very important, and always have that at the forefront of your thoughts. So we'll have various handouts throughout that we'll have there for you. And I'll go over a couple of the handouts here in just a second. And then find your legislator. So before you show up, you need to know who your legislator is. They do have a pictorial that they usually pass out up on the 4th floor at the entrance of the House and Senate chambers. However, that has yet to be updated with the new House and Senate members. So it's last year's model, and that's not accurate. So you need to have a understanding of who your legislator is. And I'll show you a shortcut here in just a minute, or something you can download to your phone as an app to find your legislator. So, and this is if you go to either iPhone or Google Play, you'll be able to find the Oklahoma Legislators Guide. It's Oklahoma Legislators 59 or the 59th legislation cycle for Oklahoma. You can download this app and you can find your legislator. So while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I'll just share from my phone. Yeah, switch it to my phone. And then I'll kind of show you if I can figure out how to do this. Here. I've never shared from my phone before. All right, how do I do that? Can I share from my phone?
I went ahead and emailed or text messaged all mine this morning to remind them. I've already talked to them previously, but to remind them that we'd be up there on Thursday.
Okay.
It should be on your
phone. In case anybody else wants to do the same.
Gotcha. Well, let's see. Share content. Share content. All right. Let's see. Share screen. Start broadcast. All right. Look at me go. All right. Awesome. So you guys can see my phone now. So if you go and you download the Oklahoma Legislative Guide 59th is what you're looking for. And so you can, if you find that, then you can download it. I'll go ahead and pop over here and see, make sure I can find it. Search Oklahoma Legislative Guide. And it's going to be this one right here, this 59th. So Oklahoma Legislative Guide 59th. That's what you're looking for, this icon. And if I open that up, then you'll be able to see the Oklahoma Legislative Guide. And then you can click on state at the bottom, and you can click on House or Senate. So I'm going to start with Senate, and I'm going to hit members. You can go to leadership, members, committees, all of that if you want to look at that. And then if I kind of roll my finger down, I'm on an iPhone, but if I roll my finger down, I can search by name, county, or district. If you don't know your district number, then you can go to county and you can search by McLean, and it'll pop up and says Jessica Garvin covers McLean. So if I click on her, it will actually tell you all of the committees she's on, and what county she serves and her contact number. And the big thing is right here in the middle, legislative office, what room is she in? So 237, it starts with a 2, so it's on the second floor. And there's also on every corner, on every floor, there's a smart board that you can go in and you can check and look and find rooms and all that stuff. So very handy tool that's free. And you obviously can go to committees if you want, and I'll explain where ours is at. But this is the Public Safety Committee that heard our bill last week, or one of our bills last week, and it's the chair, I'm sorry, the Senate hasn't. The House Public Safety Committee heard our bill. So, and these are the members of that Public Safety Committee. It doesn't hurt. Most likely, this stuff's all going to go through public safety, and if it doesn't go through public safety, these are the folks that are on these public safety committees that are absolutely going to be important to moving a bill, because they're going to be your cheerleader on the House or Senate side. So if one of these members are also your local member on the Public Safety Committee, it's very important to understand that and be able to add that into your conversation. The other is the Budget and Appropriations Committee. So let's see, let me go back over to the House. And this was one of our committee meetings yesterday, and it was pretty intense. I'll be honest with you. A lot of questions, and we did pass committee, but we'll talk about that in a second. But if I go to appropriation and budget, these are the folks that are on appropriation and budget. So again, if your people are any of these appropriation, budget, or public safety, then it's important for you to add that to your conversation when you're speaking to them, that how it's important to you, and you're on, and we understand you're on that public safety committee, and so we would love for you to be able to help us push these bills through. So go ahead, and I'll stop sharing though, if you can pop me back over the other one. I can figure out how to do that. All right. All right. So back to the PowerPoint. So find your legislator before you're there. It will save you some time. A lot of times, up until 10:30 in the morning, the legislators are in session, which means they're on the 4th floor. You can observe it on the 5th floor. So you can go up to the 5th floor on the east or west side. East side being the Senate, west side being the House. So if I go back to this, if you go to the 4th floor, you got east and west. This is the Senate side, and the west side is the House side. So that's where your members probably going to be at Thursday morning up until 10:30 is going to be in session, where they actually on the floor approving bills. You can again observe those by going to the 5th floor, going to these wings on the 5th floor, east or west, depending if you're on the Senate or House, and you can observe what's going on the floor. Or you can go to the 4th floor and you can catch your senators and things like that coming out of session around 10:30. So that's just someplace you can kind of go to, could congregate and see where they're at, and see the lobbyists will be all over the place on the 4th floor, right inside the doorways or right outside the doorways. So you'll see a lot of activity going on the 4th floor on the east and west side, especially right now because everybody's trying to get their bills through the process. So moving on, this is one of the handouts that we're getting ready for you. Stacy's been working on this to get some. This will be on cardstock. It'll be something you can carry with you. It has the primary talking points that we would like for you guys to promote. She's going to do some old 1975 graphics with a 1975 state logo, with the current state logo. And the key to that is our core technology was patented in 1975. That's something important to write down or jot down. Our primary core technology of the selectable router was patented in 1975. So when you think about that, it's old. I mean, we've tricked the system and we've made the system work with the way it works today, but it needs an upgrade. We need to move to next gen 911. So on this are 2 primary bills. Hey, Stacey, can you take a note? That's 1590 instead of 1990.
Yep.
It's 1590. So House Bill 1924 and House Bill 1590, 1590, and I'll walk through those in just a second. But these talking points are, the current system's 1975. We need next gen 911 to work with 21st century technology, and it delivers the call to the correct 911 center the first time with the dispatchable address, which is extremely important. And that's important to these rural folks. There's been a lot of interim studies out there on 911 calls right across a border into another county that goes to the wrong county, and then it gets transferred back either on a different selectable router through a 10-digit, or, we all feel it. We all know the issues we have with transferring callers and you not getting information and all of that. And so there's been a lot of talk about this particular subject over the last 3 to 4 years. So there's certainly discussion going on, but we need to make decision, and decision is passing our bills. Then a mandatory training, telecommunicator CPR, and a consistent training across the state of Oklahoma. So those are just the primary talking points, and then we'll go on and get into more detail with each one of the bills next. I say next. So how do you approach your House and Senate member? You know, the first thing is they're people too. So they are people, they're people that care about you and they care about their local area. You know, they care about the entire demographic of your area. So, you know, how does their decisions impact the citizens within their area? And there's no hidden fact out there that says, but we've got an issue between rural and metro, and it's been brought up big time on our bills. You know, rural, less people, less money, same amount of need, right? Same need, less money, less people. Metros, more people, more PSAPs, a lot more PSAPs in the metro area that's spreading this stuff around, but you have a lot more sharing of equipment and sharing of core infrastructure and all that, where the rules are out there kind of on their own. So, you know, so when you speak to your legislator, you know, what we would ask you to do is speak on behalf of the entire state of Oklahoma. You know, obviously we want you to be taken care of at your local PSAP, but without a global approach and looking at the entire state, border to border, it's very difficult for us to help you because rural Oklahoma has more House members and Senate members than the metros do. Yeah, it's by population, but rural Oklahoma has a pretty good stance within the legislature. So they're there to help you and help your local area. They do not like tax and fee increases. That's Oklahoma in general. And it's also just the current culture within our state government. You know, we can talk about the parties and what parties, you know, core initiatives and all that stuff. But I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat, they don't like fee increases. What I've seen in yesterday's committee meeting was the Democrats didn't vote for it because the Democrats did not want a fee increase. So you can't draw this along party lines. And we'll talk about that here in just a second also about the fee increases and how that impacts, you know, what those discussions have been. So I should say start the conversation. So, you know, start the conversation. By starting the conversation, the first thing is, you know, just like with any good quality conversation, you know, you need to thank them. Thank them for the work they're doing. Thank them for defining us as first responders. It's huge. They need to hear that. We need to reinforce the work that we've done over the last 5 or 6 years, 7 years, and we need to reinforce that with we're doing good work. You know, we've made changes in our statutes to improve service. And one of those improvements is defining us as first responders. And so here's a little extra. Defining us as first responders is different than reclassification of us being first responders. The state of Oklahoma did not reclassify us as first responders. They defined us. Reclassification happens at the federal level. And I'll be traveling to the federal to DC and actually next week to fight for that. But that reclassification happens at the federal level. But they did define us, which helps us with getting that reclassification done at the federal level. But thank them for that. Thank them for that work they've done. Thank them for their time. What a lot of people don't realize is they only make like $35,000 a year. They're not making a lot of money to do this. Now they've got other jobs and things like that. And they make money elsewhere, but you know, this is a passion that they have to come in and make a difference. So tell them about our technology being out of date, not keeping up. You know, if you have stories that you can tell about misrouting of calls or you know, your you know, you have 8 screens in front of you. And the one thing you don't need to be able to do is have to worry about drilling in to figure out where this caller's calling from. And we know that happens. You know, disparate software solutions across, you know, multiple different screens that don't connect and all of that. You know, NextGen helps kind of start the standardization process for these technologies to start being able to be better shared. So, you know, tell them a story. Tell them, you know, how technology affects your day-to-day life. Explain how the funding, these funding bills will help you at the local level. And we'll be you know, every 911 center at the local level, we will be receiving additional funding. You know, so, and additional funding means what? You know, at your local level. It could be that you need to connect those software systems together and be better, you know, be faster and be quicker. It could be that you need to help pay for operations. You know, it could be that you're in rural Oklahoma and your dispatchers get paid $8 an hour. I mean, if that's the case, then that's the case. You need to, you know, explain to them how funding helps. Minimum training. So, you know, what does it mean to have minimum training? You know, when I started, I got 3 days worth of training. So, you know, 3 days worth of training and I'm cut loose on my own. And so what are those, you know, what do we need to do to ensure that the training happens across the board? And we start the process of equalizing that out and providing more standardization. And then obviously I talk about the additional funding. I've already talked about that. And then we need the technology for the 21st century. It's crazy that that we're working with a system where my Uber driver can find me better than 911 can find me. And so we've got to start adapting to that and getting that in play. So they're people, talk to them like they're people. Their goal is to help their people within their district. So, you know, talk in that direction. So the bills we have during the session, you know, we have, can you check the chat? Sure, there's no questions. So the bills we're running in this session, we've got House Bill 1897, which is a consolidation of 2 acts. And I'll go over each of these next. House Bill 1590 is the Next Generation 911 bill. And House Bill 1924 is the collapse of landline 911 fee revenue and NG 911. So on the first one, the consolidation of the 2 acts. So this is a big thing to know, you know, fiscal impact. What's fiscal mean? You know, fiscal means what's it costs. Is there a money factor to this? And if there's a fiscal impact, then what is that fiscal impact on the taxpayer? You know, what is the current impact and what is the future impact if we assess a fee or tax? With this particular bill, there's no fiscal impact, so there's no money that's involved with these changes. So what this does, it merges the Oklahoma Emergency Telephone Number Act into the Oklahoma 911 Management Authority Act. So if you've done any looking at the Oklahoma legislation or Oklahoma bills or law that oversees 911, you'll find that in one section of the law there's a is for landline and the old way of doing business from the 1980s. With you know, how often do I need to have meetings? What's a governance structure look like? How do I run a local election for to assess a 3 to 15% fee at the local level? You know, what's the ballot need to look like? What, you know, all of these things are all housed over in the Oklahoma Emergency Telephone Number Act. Then the Oklahoma 911 Management Authority Act, you've got a different set over there, and we have meeting requirements in there. We've got governance structure in there to a certain degree. And that's where the 911 Management Authority is their task and duties are outlined. You know, so that's where I go to the majority of the time. But there's a lot of duplication between these two. So what this Consolidation Act is remove some of that duplication, and puts us, where it's kind of more of a one-stop shop as it comes to how do I do business at the local level and what does the law say. So, again, one centralized location, and removing local meetings that are meeting mandated from language, and using the more modern language that was adopted 2016. So just, streamlining and getting things cleaned up. I don't see a big issue with this bill. This bill is going to move forward. It's going to move through. It'll get signed by the governor. Not a lot of opposition on it. Again, no physical impact, and streamlining our legislation that's been that started development in 1979. That's the first 911 legislation that was passed. So, 40 years worth of 43 years worth of legislation changes and all that stuff. So trying to clean that up, I don't see that being a big deal. It passed through committee with no problem. It got 100% yays, and it will move to the House floor, and we'll move on down the road. So the next bill, House Bill 1590, this gets into the physical impact. So these do have physical impacts. I don't have that on the screen. You won't see that on the handouts, but you will be asked that by somebody. Does this have a physical impact? Yes, it does have a physical impact, but it's needed for technology. It's needed to level the services across the entire state, and we believe that the 911, the people using 911 needs to pay for 911, which is why it's device based. So on both of the House Bill 1590 and House Bill 1924, you'll see a lot of the same language. So on both bills, it moves 6 members to non-voting members. And that has been brought up in committee. The 6 members are all associated with telecommunication companies that may or may not receive benefit from Next Generation 911. So when we sign a contract for Next Gen 911, we're going to have an EZNet. We'll have a network, and that network is going to be owned by somebody. So those somebodies are probably going to be these six non-voting members, or these 6 members that are for telco industry. So we've already talked to the members that are currently on the authority. They're good with this. They voted to approve and move this stuff forward. So not a big thing, but they do ask, why are we getting rid of that? You just have to know it's a conflict of interest. So we foresee that as a conflict of interest of these vendors voting on contracts where they could potentially receive funding, and we don't want that. It'll just slow down the process. The next is funding. So this sets, on House Bill 1590, it sets a single fee for all devices. And that single fee is $1.25. So that's landline, wireless, voice over IP, prepaid, and really anything that can call 911 is how we've defined that in the bill. So this one is a single fee. What you'll see in 1924, the SIMS bill, is you'll see that it's a little bit different. So that's the difference between the 2 bills, is what's bolded there in the first bullet point under funding. It adds funding to the state revolving fund. That's what Stacy, Karen, Gwen, and I live off of. And so it's off that revolving fund. We do not get state appropriations. What you will hear, and you'll see this here in a minute, but I'll go ahead and plant the seed, is you'll hear, why do we need to raise the fee when we can just pay for this out of appropriations, because we got $4 billion in savings right now? And that's continuing to go up considerably every year. Why can't we just appropriate the money? The issue with appropriations and why the revolving fund is important is because appropriations, you have to fight for that every year. And if there's budget cuts, you'll get a budget cut. So, if we're at the bare minimum to pay for Next Generation 911, and they come in and says, we're going to cut you in half, like they've done departments all over the state. You've heard of teachers getting cuts and Highway Patrol getting cuts and all that. That could happen to us if we were appropriated the money out of the state funds. So We certainly want to try to stick with the fee structure we have today and make sure that the revolving fund receives additional funding to pay for next gen. And it helps mitigate the loss of landline at the local level. We lose about 20. Over the last 4 years, we've lost 26% in landline revenue and only 8% growth in wireless. So we're losing landline, and this helps to mitigate that at the local level. Technology is going to cost about $8 million a year for next generation 911, and that only replaces about $1.5 million at the local level. So we're looking at a $6.5 million deficit that we can't afford to pay for without some form of fee increase. Provides consistency with technology across the state. I think that's very important. The metros have more money, and the metros have more people, and they have more 911 calls, and they get better tools. They get better stuff. We want to make sure that when those folks from the metro area head off to Fort Smith, Arkansas, and they have an accident, that rural Oklahoma knows where they're calling from. So we need to provide consistency and level the service of technology across the state. And then training, mandated minimum training is very important. If we want to raise the bar, it's not just technology, it's training also. So the next bill is House Bill 1924, and you're going to see the same thing. I mean, you can see as I toggle back between these two bills, the only thing that you're going to see difference is that bolded area. So what the difference is between these two bills is the funding. On House Bill 1924, it keeps the current traditional 3% to 15% on landlines assessed at the local level based on a local election. That stays the same. It raises the fee for wireless voice over IP and prepaid, as it is today, to $1.25. So this $1.25 will go to the tax commission. Tax commission will just then disperse that back out. And that's where, that's the way it'll work. Same way it is today, two different funding structures, one at the local level for landline, one at the state level for voice over IP, prepaid and wireless. Now we are having a special meeting at 3:00 Thursday afternoon. The 911 Management Authority will have a special meeting to debate which of these two fees, or which of these two bills are they going to support. What we're looking for, or what I'm looking for, or our office is looking for, and what our authors are looking for, and Senate and House leadership, is for us to make the decision, because we're at the point in the fork in the road that if we continue to push two bills, neither one of the bills are going to get approved. So somebody's got to sit down and make a decision on which one we're going to move forward with. So at 3:00, Stacy will look the room number up here in just a second. What is it? We're in 4S9. So floor 4S9 is where that meeting will be. Just ask us when we're there and we can point you where that's at. So there'll be a special meeting, and the 911 Management Authority is going to have to vote to figure out which bill they're going to support, so we can move forward and quit being lukewarm and start being hot on these on one of these two bills. Both the bills accomplish what we're trying to accomplish. It does make a difference in funding, but it makes a difference for some on one bill, and it makes a positive difference on others on the other bill. So it's kind of, it's about 60-40. About 60% of the people get more money with House Bill 1924 with the two fees. About 60% get more money with that, and about 40% get more money with the other bill. But it's not a huge difference. So again, what we want to do is we want to generically talk to them about both bills. We want to generically talk to them about why we need the funding increase and why, and what these what these two bills are going to do for us. So, real quick before I go any further, so another handout that you'll have is you will have one-page documents that you'll be able to pass out, and we'll have copies of these. that you'll be able to pass out to the various members. And so it goes over the governance a little more in detail than what I've done so far, goes over funding. One of the things in the funding I didn't cover in the PowerPoint was this section here. We're changing the distribution model. And so it'll be a flat fee of $3,000. It would to every PSAP every month, and then 90% based on land mass, and I'm sorry, 10% on land mass, 10% on land mass, and 90% on population. Right now, it's 100% population base, period. So as we've looked at this to try to level the playing field across the state, we came up with this flat fee, land mass, and population distribution model. So, and this gives the best well-rounded funding structure to the locals that we could possibly find, where it, you know, it doesn't negatively impact anyone and it positively impacts everyone. So you'll get these handouts, and again, if you have questions, holler at me while I'm there, and we can, you know, we can cover that. But this is just a more in-depth breakdown, and you'll have these to pass out also. So you could use the stock card or the little card as your talking points, and then you can use you can hand these papers out to them. So that's the House Bill 1590, and then we have another one for House Bill 1924. So we've got another handout for that one. So again, we'll have these available to you, and then we've also got one for House Bill 1897. So that's something else you'll have. Any questions in the chat or anything?
No, Vicky just posted that.
Lance, I've got a question. This is
This,
Carol.
legislators with pictures.
Okay.
So I put a link to that, the digital.
In the chat?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a link in the chat for if you guys want to download that, that gives you a, I think it's a pictorial. Is it a pictorial?
It's the digital
Oh.
version of that issue, the February issue.
Okay, so the digital version of the February issue for legislators. So so going back to the PowerPoint.
Can you not hear me?
Let me pause real quick and just see if there's any questions that are not in the chat. I've covered quite a bit. Any questions? All right. So the current status of our bills. The first thing to understand is the process of the bills. Who remembers the cartoon? You know, you remember the cartoon from 1976, by the way. So this little cartoon guy from 1976 is 1 year newer than our core 911 equipment. Isn't that cool? And so I'm just a bill, and he gets exhausted at the end because this bill's trying to go through the system, and it's literally like a tennis match. It's back and forth and back and forth and up and down and out of bounds and all of that. So the process to move a bill through the system, you know, first there's got to be a physical impact. Well, first you got to find an author that's willing to carry your bill. And luckily we've had some great mentors along the way, Dorita Huckabee and Jacob McHughes from Cleveland County, that have helped us kind of educate on how to make this happen. We've got great authors that are very well liked in the legislature, and that's important. But the first thing they do is they come in and say, is there a physical impact? And if there's a physical impact, there needs to be a physical impact study. So the studies have been completed on one of the bills, but not the other one. So that's going to could be a hang up. So physical impact has to happen. How's this going to impact a person's everyday financial lifestyle? The next thing it does is it gets assigned to a committee. Now, there's a process for that. And if Eccles is who assigns the committees, but if Eccles says, nah, I don't want that one heard, and it doesn't get assigned to committee, then you're out, you're done, over with, don't even go any further. So you've got to get with leadership to say, oh, I need this bill ran. And so you have to work that system to make sure that you get into committee. Once you get to committee, which is where all three of our bills are at, they're actually through committee, they've passed through committee, all three bills, and they're ready to move to the House floor. So you get to committee, you show up at committee, you lobby the committee, you make sure that they're ready to go, and they vote on your bill, and then it's ready now for floor assignment. Again, leadership has to assign it to the floor. If leadership looks at the bill and says, I don't like it. Now, this is an individual person, okay? If the individual person says, I don't like it, I don't like these fee increases, let's do appropriations, come back and talk to us next year. Then we're done. We don't move forward. So now, but it goes to the floor on the House side for our bills, and it gets voted on. And if it clears the House, then it goes to the Senate, and it follows the same exact process. If there are any changes, so let's say it goes to the Senate, and the Senate goes, I don't like this word. I want this one word to say y'all instead of youans. So now it says y'all instead of youans, and now guess what? It's got to go back to the House and go through the whole entire process again because someone made a single small change. So from the House, committee, floor, to the Senate, committee, floor, there's a change. It goes back to the House, committee, floor, then it goes back to the Senate, committee, floor, and then if you get it through the second cycle, now if there's no changes, it ends at the Senate and it goes to the governor. But wherever it ends up, and you get approval from both bodies, then it goes to the governor for signature. There's a lot of process that has to take place. So all three bills have made it through the House committees, and they're ready for the House floor. We have not assigned senators to these yet because, to be quite frank with you, the Senate's kind of a mess right now. And I don't want to have the same issues I've got right now of why do you have two bills that have fee increases and which one do you want? And until you decide, we're not going to do anything else. We've gotten to the point of where we are today, but when it gets to the Senate, I could certainly see where this would just fall apart and maybe not even get a committee assignment. Who's that? Hey, Daryl. Daryl, go ahead with your question.
Can you guys hear me now? I don't know.
Oh, can't hardly hear you.
Okay, I think I'm having problems with my. Let me log in on the computer real quick.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Just raise your hand
Okay,
or send
you
something in the
bet.
chat, or you can
Sounds
type
good.
it up in the chat if you want.
Okay, thanks. I'm gonna switch
Okay.
over.
All right.
Okay.
So all three bills have made it through the House committee and they're ready for the House floor. Now, we cannot go to the House floor without a Senate author. And so that's just one of the internal rules. It says if you don't have a Senate author assigned to your bill that's willing to carry this thing, then we're not moving them. Now we're working on Senate authors, and we've certainly have them identified, but we really want to have a single fee bill to move forward, and that's the recommendation, not Lance's recommendation. That's the recommendation from leadership on the House side. So we haven't named the senator yet, but we're working on that. So some of the current issues that's been brought up. So funding, why do we not pay this out of appropriations? And this has came up on both of our committee meetings. The first committee meeting was the rural governance is what it was. And so rural, they get it and they're all behind it. So we only had one no vote in that committee. But the no vote came from a person that said, we don't need to raise fees. We just need to pay for it through appropriations. And I talked about that earlier. So, that's what's been brought up, and it was even more evident yesterday in the Budget and Appropriation Committee that heard House Bill 1590, and we got 6 yeses and 4 nos. So when you look at that, all we have to have is a majority on the floor to pass it over to the Senate, but it's going to get tougher in the Senate. So we've got our work cut out for us on Thursday to make contact with these legislators and get them on our team. because they're looking at this going, I don't think I want to raise taxes. I just don't want to raise taxes. And some people say, well, it's a fee, it's not a tax. Well, it's a tax. So that's going to be the first thing, or that is the first thing that's been brought up. And it's pretty heavy because that's where the majority of the discussions have been going. The next is they do not want to pay for any operations and only pay for technology. That's been brought up by some pretty high level leadership. They don't want to pay for operations. They don't want to pay for dispatcher salaries. They only want to pay for technology. That's what they feel that the 911 fee is for technology and not for operations. Operations should be funded at the local level. And we've debated that, and we, basically, the technology and the needs to have this updated technology requires a certain level of person, and being able to fund operations is important to ensure that we have plenty of money to pay for other technology and pay for the salaries to be increased to pay for this, or have enough staffing to cover in some situations. So we firmly believe that the fee is still there and it should be paid for. It should be paying for operations. Now, you may get asked the question of, well, what are other states doing? Arkansas and Kansas both pay for dispatcher salaries out of the fee. Texas does not. Texas only pays for technology, and that's in their law. They cannot pay for operations, but both Kansas and Arkansas can. Is Daryl back?
Is the biggest expense.
So is it paying for personnel or so reiterate that again.
Yeah, so my question there is,
Or do they not understand?
is it, when they say operation cost, what are they saying? What are they including as operation cost?
All right, hold on, Daryl. Let me do this.
The way I
Oh, I
interpret
got you.
Daryl
I know
is
what the problem is. Hold on a
paying
second.
for salaries for people.
Well, it could be, but that's relying on us. I would like to know what their I'd like to know what their thought is. If they're saying operations that we shouldn't pay for, I think they don't understand the cost that's involved, is where I think it is.
Right, and so, yeah, you're absolutely right. When you do the history and you go back and look in Oklahoma, and I can remember 20 years ago now, 2003, where we were having a discussion about paying for dispatcher salaries out of the fee, and the debate at the time was, well, you're asking us to do 911. 911 is going to be an increase in our workload, and I may not be able to be a jailer anymore. I've got to have dedicated dispatchers. And so you had this lobbying front from the rural areas saying we need money to pay for dispatcher salaries because we can't fund, we can't do everything that's expected through 911, quote unquote, and still continue all these other duties. So we need more money.
What have you specifically heard that they have said? Have they just specifically said salaries, or have they?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So
in committee. Yeah.
If we would kind of reframe that conversation as far as operations and present the cost, a monthly cost for the overall running of 911 without salaries in there. And not say we're going to take it out, but actually paint a picture for them and say, okay, this is how much, according to our responses from our annual reports, that it costs. Because we know right now 911 fees are just covering a third of the cost.
Yeah.
So it would be easy to use those additional fees for other costs.
Yeah, so what we'll do, Daryl, we can have this handout also that we've given to our authors for you guys to have and hand out. I'm not hiding any facts, but it costs $110 million a year for 911 to run 911 in the state, and 36%, 6% from landline, 30% from wireless covers those costs. So 47% is still landline or still general fund or local funding. Actually, all of that's local funding except for those two pieces.
Yeah, I think it would be, so what would this bring that up? What percentage would that change this to then?
I'd have to run the numbers to see.
Because I think that's probably where we're going to be at. If we could tell them, oh well, we're still at this. Majority of our funding is still going to come from. But
Sure.
we have some additional cost that's going to cost us for the equipment, ongoing monthly costs.
Sure.
I think they don't want us making profit. That we're just taking bank on it. So I think if we could make that argument, it would help them and reframe that picture. Like I said, just reframe the picture and say, well, it's really not about salaries. That's not what we're talking about. I mean, even if we said that, they still, somewhat agree with you. There's arguments on both sides, but the numbers tell us that they're contributing, no matter what, they're going to contribute 50% towards their dispatch operation anyway. So.
Yeah. And I don't think it's going to be a small minority that's going to bring
Sure.
that up. But that minority that brings it up has authority.
Yep, it's like two shut it down last time. I mean, back there years ago in the House. So.
Yeah, so we'll, be aware of it. I'll work on some numbers to try to figure out how to incorporate that. And where, currently it's 36%. The new bill will pay for 42% or whatever it may be of overall costs. But our costs are going to go up too with next gen. I mean, and that's the hidden, we're not sure exactly how that's going to impact us, But anyway, I'll work on that. That's a good point.
Okay.
Very good.
It's kind of like we're doing the opposite of what they tell us to do in mental health, one thing.
Yeah.
We're having to overthink everything.
Right. This graph also, and again, we'll make printouts of this and have it ready for you. But this shows the last 4 years of kind of almost flatlining with our wireless, but we've had a pretty good substantial decline. I don't know that I would pass these out. I think it's more for your information, because with any, with any spreadsheet or any graph, you can debate that and you can argue it one direction or the other. So we'll have this available for you to educate yourself on. But again, handing that out, it can certainly be misconstrued. And it can be used against you. This particular graph has been used against me already. Let's just put it that way. And they've twisted it to sell it their way. So I'll just be cautious about that. We'll have it available for you guys to review and look at, and but handing it out again, the percentages are the percentages. That's raw numbers. I get that, but there you go. All right. So the next is the physical impact of raising taxes. So they just don't want to raise taxes. They don't want to raise fees. Just simple as that. They don't want to continue to further burden the local, the citizens of Oklahoma, when they're sitting on a $4 billion savings. So why do we need to raise taxes if we've got that surplus? Yeah, surplus. So training. Oops, I don't have anything. So training. The only issues that have been brought up in training is that we have is TCPR. So we deleted out, removed one section that says TCPR has to be standards based, but we put it back into the mandatory training. So we took it out of the minimum training standard that's in there today. We moved it up to mandatory training. No one else has said anything about an unfunded mandate or anything like that. So, so that's good. because if they do say, it's an unfunded mandate, man, we can't do this mandatory training. Well, but we're about to give you a bunch of money, anywhere from 12% increase up to 85% increase in funding. So, that's what we're trying to do is offset some of these costs because we're making mandates on you. Goes back to Daryl's point of it costs more money to do this service. And so, training and technology and, more operational staff, our expectations continue to go up, but our resources are stagnant. And that's very important. We continue to be asked to do more and more and more, but yet our resources have stayed the same, both funding resources and our operational resources. So that's what I have for the PowerPoint that I threw together 30 minutes before this. So if you saw errors in that, I apologize. So I think that's all I have to cover. I want to kind of poll my team to see if I missed something. Stacy, can you think of anything else? Okay.
Everything will be put together, and provided. So it's easy to just come to the Capitol Thursday, grab a packet of information, and be on your way. It'll be easy, accessible. We'll be around for questions, so I don't think you missed anything. I think you covered everything well.
Okay. So Stacy will have packets ready for you when you get there. And again, we're there for questions. I'm going to try to be as available as possible while I'm there. Don't forget about the 3:00 meeting in the afternoon. So Gwen, anything else that I missed that you can think about?
I think you covered everything, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there.
Awesome. Karen, anything I missed, or she may have went to her other call? I'm not sure.
I'm still here.
Okay. Can you think of anything else that I missed?
No, I can't think of anything else.
Okay. Awesome. Are there any other questions?
Lance, I was going to mention, I was looking here on our, if there's talk about the overall loss or something like that, they might have those handy just for themselves. If they have seen a general loss in revenue to tell their story.
Yeah.
And what their problems are. So they have those facts and figures a little bit handy. Because that's what those guys want to hear is what the local story is and how, if they're going to have a win or a lose locally by doing this, passing it or not passing it. So
If you want to access your numbers that you provided for the FY22 registration forms, you can go into your account and print those off. If you need specific directions, you can call me, but those are available for download and printable.
You have to have a login. So
You have to have a login. So if you're the person or if you're not the person, get with me and I can print them off for you. But if you are the person that has access, you can go in there and print them off, download that information.
yeah, so that's on the registration forms through EM grants. So if you have, whoever that person is can go in and get that information and print that your historical data for the last 3 years off. But Daryl has a very good point. They need to hear from you locally. This will not pass with Lance and a couple others walking the halls up there. We've got to have impacts at the local level. So how does this impact you? What have you seen with your revenue streams? What's happened with your costs? What's your current dispatcher salaries? If you're getting paid minimum wage or close to minimum wage and your staffing hasn't changed since 1975, then that's important. Those are important things to understand. What's your EMS coverage like? And, are you able to provide TCPR? Is it mandated? Does your local agency support it? I mean, all these type of things at the local level, they need to hear those stories and see that data. So that's a good point, Daryl. All right. I'm going to close things up. We've been going longer than I expected. Probably my fault, but is there anything else before we close up?
I'll be sending out table assignments today, and I'll also have table assignments on each table. So when you get there, you'll just find the paper that is for you.
Awesome.
And I'm also gonna bring some, basically just some name tags. Everybody can fill out their own name tag.
Okay. Shelley, we appreciate your coordination on this too.
No balloons allowed.
Yeah, no balloons. So yeah, Shelley, we appreciate your coordination on this and putting this together and helping make this thing happen. Stacy's been involved too, so we certainly appreciate both their efforts getting the schedule and getting it done. So look forward to seeing you guys Thursday. My phone's on. Email me, text me, whatever you got to do to get a hold of me if you have questions. And wear your walking shoes. Bring your lunch. Let's go. I appreciate it. See you Thursday. Bye-bye.